All right, so we're going to dive into chapter 4 and 5 in this video. And in this video, we build from what we just established in chapter 3, right, which was the beginning of the story, right? And this idea that they finished, or, Ishmael and the narrator finished this dialogue in section 6 of chapter 3, where they were talking about premises, right? And this idea that the world was made for humans. And that is the taker culture premise. And maybe we don't move around every day claiming this. Maybe we don't, actively think this conscientiously moment to moment. But it certainly seems to be the case, or at least it could be argued for, that we definitely behave in this way, right? As takers. And all of us are takers. I don't know if that's been established, but we are all takers. And living in the world that we live and living in the way that we do, we are undoubtedly takers, right? And so in thinking about this, and thinking about this premise that the world was made for us, made for humans, then what follows, right? If the world was made for us, then, right, and fill in the blank. And this is where we go in section 4, okay? And this idea that the world was made for humans is a start, or is a starting place to address the question of how things came to be this way, right? And this question of how things came to be this way as a signpost for us to ask really meaningful epistemological questions, right? When we think about what we know, what we believe, why we believe what we believe, why we claim to know what it is we claim to know, in a way, we're asking that question that we know how things came to be this way, right? And things is purposefully ambiguous, purposefully worthy of further investigation. Okay? All right. So in chapter 4, we're going to build on kind of this starting place. Because in that chapter 3, right, it was the beginning of the story that the world was made for humans. It wasn't made for jellyfish. It was made for humans. Okay? Yada, yada, yada. Yada, yada, yada. What does it exactly mean? Yada, yada, yada. I'm on page 69 in my book, which is above section 2. The world had been made for humans, but they were unable to take possession of it until the problem was cracked. And finally, the problem was cracked about 10,000 years ago in the Fertile Crescent. This is a very big moment, the biggest moment in human history up to this point. Humans were at last free from all those restraints. Okay? The limitations of the hunter-gathering life had kept humans in check for 3 million years with agriculture, right? And we're very familiar maybe with this Fertile Crescent idea, okay? With agriculture, those limitations vanished and humans' rise was meteoric. Settlement gave rise to division of labor. Division of labor gave rise to technology. With the rise of technology came trade and commerce. With trade and commerce came mathematics and literacy and science and all the rest. The whole thing was underway at last, and the rest, they say, is history, and that's the middle of the story, okay? So the world was made for humans, and now with agriculture, from the taker perspective, right, we put it under human rule. Okay? Right, that's an important aspect here. That's an important aspect of this middle part of the taker story. Okay? That with agriculture, what we are doing, what we did do, is that we put the world under our control. And we finally learned how to do that with agriculture. And we started to put it under our control because no matter what, at the end of the day, right, the world, all of this belongs to us. Okay? All right. Section 3, chapter 4, right? Yada, yada, yada. And this idea that we've, again, been telling ourselves as takers that the world needed us, right? Clearly, it's a freaking mess out there, right? And so Ishmael challenges the narrator by saying, why was the world and the universe incomplete without humans? Why did the world and the universe need humans? Okay? The narrator says, okay, I imagine, close my eyes. What's it like? I don't know. Where are you looking at it from? Right? The narrator says, I'm looking at it from above the world, right? Ishmael says, why don't you go down on the surface? Right? And then the narrator says, that's interesting. I'd rather not go down there. Why not? The jungle's down there. Nature, red tooth and claw. dragons of prime and that tear each other in their slime. That's it. And what would happen if you go down there? I'd be one of those dragons. I'd be one of those the dragons were tearing in their slime. Okay? And it's at this point that we begin to see where humans fit into the whole divine scheme. The gods didn't mean to leave the world a jungle, did they? And this is, again, coming from a taker perspective. This is what we've, again, kind of been fed and told in this mosaic, right? This very piece by piece epistemological picture. Piece by piece, we've decided that the world needs us. We've been told that the world needs us, right? Because without humans, it's just nature, red tooth and claw. It's scary, it's messy, right? It's brutal, visceral, right? So without humans, the world was unfinished. It was just nature and red tooth and claw. It was chaos in a state of primeval anarchy. So it needed what? It needed someone to come in and straighten it out. Ishmael says, and I'm on page 71. This is in section 3, chapter 4. And what sort of person who straightens things out? What sort of person takes anarchy in the hands and puts them in order? Well, a ruler, a king. On the top of 72, so now we have a clearer idea of what the story is all about. The world was made for humans, and humans were made to rule it. Okay? This idea here, right? That again, and I mean, what Ishmael's doing here with the narrator is deconstructing, right? Deconstructing a worldview, deconstructing a belief structure by pointing out maybe some of these more mythological, more of these shaky beliefs that yet we've probably internalized as factual, as very real, as very unshakable, when in fact, if we think more about them, maybe it's a little more tricky, right? So in section 4 of chapter 4, okay, it was only about 10,000 years ago that humans finally realized that their place was not in the slime. They had to lift themselves out of the slime and take this place and straighten it out. Okay? But the world didn't meekly submit to human rule, did it? Right? And it still doesn't. The world defied, and what humans built up, the wind tore down. The fields had cleared up the crops, and the villages the jungle fought to reclaim. The seeds he sowed, the birds snatched away. The shoots he nurtured, the insects nibbled. The harvest he stored, the mice plundered. The animals he bred and fed, the wolves and foxes stole away. The mountains, the rivers, the oceans stood in their places and would not make way for the humans. The earthquake, the flood, the hurricane, the blizzard, and the drought would not disappear at their command. And I think we see something interesting even in 2022, kind of in this space, right? That again, from a taker perspective, we have this very strong desire, right, to conquer the world, right? That this is ours, it belongs to us, so we can do whatever we damn well please with it. But often we're reminded, right, given natural disasters, given things that we can't control, right? And when natural disasters take place, sometimes we are left feeling jarred. And I mean, I want to be very sensitive here about the way that lives are lost and livelihoods are lost when it comes to natural disasters. But sometimes the narrative surrounding natural disasters after they take place, right, is this as such as like, you know, we tried to build these levees, but they didn't work. We tried to subdue, we tried to build earthquake-proof building structures, right, but they didn't work, right? This idea that we can try as best as we might to subdue, to control, to conquer the world, but no matter what, we're still reminded all the time about how we have yet to succeed. Of course, in order to make himself ruler of the world, humans had to first conquer it. Okay? You hear this nearly 50 times a day. You turn on the radio and the television, you hear it every hour. Humans are conquering the deserts. Humans are conquering the oceans. Humans are conquering the atom. Humans are conquering the elements. Humans are conquering outer space. Okay? In section 5 here, in order to become fully human, humans had to pull themselves out of the slime, and all this is the result. Takers see it. As takers see it, the gods gave humans the choice the same that they gave Achilles. A brief life of glory, a long uneventful obscurity, and the takers chose a brief life of glory. Okay? So this idea here, right, of chapter 4 is going on to that middle part of the story where ultimately, right, we have turned the premise of the world was made for us into we can do whatever we damn well please, but in order to do what we damn well please, we have to rule it and we have to conquer it. And that's just part of our destiny, right? And so this taker mentality and where we're going to go here, right, is this idea that mentality, that story that we're buying into, that story that we're participating in, ultimately might be self-defeating, but we'll see what shakes out. So chapter 5, next video.